You're watching Brain Gainz.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Brain Gainz, the show brought to you live from Bodybuilding.com headquarters. My name is Tyler. This is my good friend Alec. What's going on, bud?
Oh man, it's approaching the festivities.
That's right, man. Holidays are coming up. We got a lot of food in front of us, and so that's actually what we're going to be talking about today, is how to deal with all that food, how to deal with all the excitement and partying that's going to be happening over the next couple months, and how to keep gaintaining your way all the way through the holidays. So you guys have questions about that, please feel free to post them in chat while you're here. Also, we have a little bit of a challenge to the audience. If you guys are here listening and joining us today, please feel free to throw your tips for gaintaining through the holidays into the chat as well, and we're going to be reading those throughout as well. So today is all about helping you guys keep those gains, hopefully not let the partying get too much over the course of the next couple months. Yep. So thank you so much for being here. If you have questions that we don't get to during the show, please feel free to throw those into our email. It's the brain.gainz@bodybuilding.com. That's Gainz with a Z. brain.gainz@bodybuilding.com, and we can get back to you on those as well. So thank you so much for joining us. Once again, my name's Tyler. This is Alec. Start us off, man.
Well, I think the biggest thing that we're really trying to approach with this is proper, I guess, if you want to, strategies are kind of like the best way to set yourself up for success for the holidays, just because culturally speaking in the United States, I know not to throw our international viewers kind of off on this one, so United States, we like to pig out. There's no secret about that.
Same.
So, I mean, I've been guilty of that. I do like holidays. Pumpkin cheesecake is one of my vices. However, if you are on a specific kind of goal or plan and you're at the beginning of your fitness journey, it is incredibly important to understand how to rise above situations like this.
All right. So what we want to talk about is things that you can do either in the days leading up to days that you know they're going to be big meals like Thanksgiving or Christmas Day, things that you can do day of that'll probably help you out, and then hopefully give you a little bit of encouragement to keep pushing through towards your goals on those days. So first thing we wanted to talk about, this is something we've touched on a few times before, and that's flexible dieting, right? So we talked about it in January as a part of the greater year-long goal to improve your diet, but we can also kind of touch on it going into the holidays here because it still makes sense. So what is flexible dieting?
So flexible dieting is an approach of if it fits your macros is the nice little acronym with it. So it's knowing kind of like a puzzle, your entire diet or meals that you consume is like one giant puzzle, and you're trying to fill your gaps with protein, fats, and carbohydrates to complete the puzzle by the end of the day. So not all bodies are created equal, different sizes of human beings, ages, all that fun stuff. So macros, macronutrients being the full vernacular on that. It's going to be different from person to person. From what I eat is different from what Tyler eats. Yep. But the nice part of it is at the end of the day, you're trying to hit a certain calorie target with these three macronutrients. So that's like kind of the best way to do it, is how we've kind of done it. So like better is, or good is just tracking calories, better is tracking calories and protein, and then the best way to go about it in terms of flexible dieting is all three.
And you can look at these kind of more from a macro scale, right? And when I say macros, I'm actually not talking about protein, carbs, and fats, but taking a step back and looking at more of the calendar than just one day at a time. And I know when you are planning out your diet for the week, you're planning for the week. You're not planning day by day by day. So how can they fit that into Thanksgiving?
So with that is kind of a loose term, macro hoarding, if you want to think of it that way. So Thanksgiving being on the back end of the week on a Thursday, you're able to maybe eat a little bit less in the Monday through or Sunday through Wednesday to kind of take that into account. If you want to eat maybe like 500 calories less, and I mean, it may suck for a couple days leading up to it, but then you're able to enjoy Thursday guilt-free. I mean, at the end of the day, just don't be a jerk and eat too much for yourself. But biggest deal is like, just don't feel guilty that you're enjoying yourself, because everybody does this. It's okay. And yeah, that's the biggest thing with it. It's like at the end of the week, what is your weekly average of calories, right? So if your goal is to hit 2,500 calories by the end of the week, if you want to do a little math and just like augment, eat 1,750 for the first few, and you know you're going to eat 800 extra calories or so, maybe more. It is what it is. Cool. Do it to it.
All right. A couple questions from in chat. From YouTube, do teenagers have to eat more calories to gain muscle? Generally, no. You guys just need to be, the act of gaining muscle requires more calories in general, but there's no like special rules for teenagers. Just know that if you are looking to gain muscle, you need to be increasing your protein intake, probably increasing your calorie intake by a little bit, but just more focusing on protein and then making sure that you're lifting heavy. Let's see. Any tips for bulking during the holidays? I think everyone's bulking during the holidays. So actually, just like I mentioned before, make sure that you're focusing on protein and then that you're lifting heavy during that time. And then, if you have a couple extra calories, then you're good.
Yeah, bulking is pretty simple in terms of like, caloric surpluses are the fun side of things, right? Because you're trying to eat more than what you're actually burning. It's not too difficult for the holiday times in terms of like treats, but I think the biggest deal, like Tyler brought up, is protein is kind of set aside when you're eating with your family and friends in that time of the year, just because you're like, I'm gonna grab rolls instead. I'm gonna grab pie, which are protein-wise very low. So focus on turkey, and we'll get to that here in a bit about better food choices. But
sorry, from Twitch, good gym buddy. What do you guys think about fasting? So this comes up all the time, and fasting can come in multiple different forms, whether it be large scale fasting, whether you're not eating for 24 hours at a time, or something a little bit more tangible, which is something like intermittent fasting, where you go for 16 hours without eating, but then eat during an 8-hour window and then just cycle through that. And again, there's many different forms of this that we haven't talked about, but just kind of fasting in general. I have been unable to sustain a fasting lifestyle, but there are some people who swear by it, and it all comes down to eating habits and preferences and personal style of eating. The overall goal of fasting is to consume less food, right? You want to decrease your calorie intake, and if you can do that by fasting, by maybe skipping the times of day that would normally lead to you eating extra food, then maybe that can help. So like, if I've told myself I'm only going to eat for the 8-hour window of 10 a.m. through 6 p.m., I've pretty much eliminated the concept of dessert, right? And if I'm really bad about eating ice cream at, right before I'm about to go to bed, but I told myself I want to stick to this fasting regimen, I've eliminated that. And so hopefully over time that helps me out. Now there is a big, heavy scientific argument about your hormonal reactions to longer scale fasting that I don't really want to get into today. But for the purposes of Thanksgiving and Christmas and holiday gaintains, if that's something that you want to try, if you want to try and maintain a fasting attitude for 16 hours a day and then only eat during that window, sure, give it a shot. I've found that it tends to lead to a little bit more heavy eating during those 8 hours than I normally would have done. But again, that's me personally with zero self-control, and so maybe you'll find a little bit more success there. So give it a try if you like, see how it feels, and go from there. If you decide you don't like it, you can just start eating again. So it's fine.
I think the biggest deal, Tyler brought it up, is really what is your realistic expectations of yourself during that time frame? I mean, if you know that you're going to go balls to the wall and just eat everything in sight Thanksgiving because it is what it is, whether you have no self-control or frankly you're just trying to hit a calorie goal for that day, either whether it be an eating challenge side of things, you can totally fast for that. It's matter if you will break before that, because I know I can't fast. I'm too hungry all the time, but I know plenty of people that pull this off.
Sure. It's constantly on your mind, right? When I've been fasting, it's just I'm always thinking about it.
Well, if you're just sitting around doing nothing, I feel like that's when you're going to be more likely to break. But if you have, on Thanksgiving, if you're busy out moving around, if you're running errands, if you have the day, most people have the day off, thankfully. But keep your mind occupied. It's a lot easier.
There you go. All right, so this is one I put together, and I hope hopefully it can help some of you. So these are some better food choices and better strategies that you can use on the day of. So this is mostly for people who are celebrating Thanksgiving, celebrating Christmas with those big family meals. So what are things that you can do on the day of that will hopefully help you in your goals, right? So number one that I put is focusing on yams instead of mashed potatoes. So I know that big pile of mashed potatoes, that big boat of gravy is really, really enticing, and it's really delicious, and you put, you dip your roll in it, and it's really good, and make a little sandwich with the turkey. Oh man, I love it. But the problem with mashed potatoes is that they have a very high glycemic index. So what does that mean? That means that per amount of mashed potatoes that you eat, your blood sugar goes way, way up. And that's not so great. So that's why I say focus on yams, and I'm not talking about the ones that have the marshmallows and the brown sugar all sprinkled all over them. I know it's so good, but just focusing on yams instead of mashed potatoes actually has a 25% decrease in glycemic index compared to mashed potatoes, and that's not even talking about gravy. So focus on the more complex starches like yams or sweet potatoes instead of mashed potatoes from like the standard potatoes. Secondly, and I think a lot of people know this one, but just focusing on white meat from the turkey instead of brown meat. So I looked up the amounts for every 3 ounces of meat that you eat, which, you know, it's not that much, but for every 3 ounces, white meat will save you 45 calories and 6 grams of saturated fat.
Goodness.
Saturated fat, which is not the good one. So
No.
anyway, you can focus on the white meat. It's probably not quite as tasty. Maybe put a couple of the yam spread on there, make it a little moist.
I'm gonna be honest, dude. I've always been a white meat fan.
Yeah, right.
But like,
It's easy if you like it. It's not so easy if you don't. But anyway, that's just something else you can do. Number 3, and this one's pretty obvious. Make sure you get your veggies. I do not mean green bean casserole with the mushroom. Oh, I love green bean casserole.
God, it's the second worst dish.
Veggies are great. They're really high in fiber, and they also take up space, and that's actually probably the most important part. They have a volume to them, which will increase your satiety, but they don't have very many calories for them, so you will feel more full with having consumed less calories. So that's good. This one, super interesting. Use a smaller plate. So I heard this a couple years ago and I thought really nothing of it. But interestingly, there was a study done in 2017 with a group of like 127 people who were overweight or obese. And they had one group of them use a normal plate and the other group used like, you know, those like the side dish plates instead. And they found that the people who visually felt like they got a full plate of a mega plate and a small plate, the people who had a small plate felt like they were full on less food than the people who had a big plate. And so there's like a cognitive thing going on there. Say, oh, I got a full plate of food, I must be full, even though they ate less food because their plate is small. Now, this doesn't mean get a small plate and then stack it 3 plates high. That's not what that means. No, so use a smaller plate, fill it up like you normally would. This is going to translate to having kind of smaller portions of everything, and then go from there. So try it out. And then finally, drink lots of water. Water, just like vegetables, takes up space, takes up volume, actually has 0 calories, which I think is really cool. And it'll help kind of offset a lot of the salt that comes with a lot of what we eat on Thanksgiving and Christmas. So give it a shot. Again, if you guys have any other eating tips that you want everyone else to know about and share, please feel free to throw those in chat. We'll go over them at the end as well. So that's what I got. Hopefully that can help a little bit.
And on that note, kind of like not only food choices, but then that comes down to kind of touching back on our first point with flexible dieting, tracking your food. So if you want to give yourself an allotted amount of food through the day and you know in advance, I mean, this is kind of a little bit easier if you've kind of been maybe snacking throughout the morning and you're just a little bit here and there, and you are able to then have like kind of satiated yourself a little bit over throughout the day, as well as had lots of water. I mean, I think by the time Thanksgiving rolls around, at least have like a half gallon of water in you.
Get it.
At that point. But track your food, know what this is what I'm gonna have, and then from there, it's you know what, I'm good to go. And
all right, what type of workout should I do to burn more calories?
That's fun. So if you're like me, so I have a Friendsgiving tomorrow. Friendsgiving. Right. So that means 2 in the next week. So I scheduled a full body lift for tomorrow. So that means you're gonna try to do whatever you can do in terms of burning as many calories as you can prior to eating. So with this, high volume, full body, and just try to burn as much. Maybe if you want to go like on a little bit extra walk,
sure.
Try to hit some steps prior. Yeah.
We just want to activate more muscle groups, right? We want to get more muscles involved. We want them to be activated in a more intense way, and then we want to decrease those rest periods, right? So we want to burn as many calories as we can in a given workout, and then there's obviously the calories burned after the workout, thanks to all the work that you did. So
I like this question, by the way.
Yep.
So YouTube, what about using a large plate with really small utensils?
Yeah, I could probably make an argument for it, because then you have to eat a little bit slower, and there's lots of data about eating slower and actually consuming less. And so if you have this little baby spoon, right, and you're eating your yams one little bit at a time, I mean, you'd probably do that. It'd be cute as hell, but you know.
For the record, at HQ here, our plastic forks that we have in our break rooms are very small, very small.
They're small and they're flimsy.
They're small and flimsy,
take big bites.
But it allows me to like personally enjoy my food when I'm eating at work, because I'm eating so slow, because you just don't breathe. So I really like this question. I think that's a great way to go about it.
It would help me a ton, because I would use a shovel if I could. You'd get more food at once. But
you would.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyway, can you give some tips for beginners on how to gain muscle without using protein powders?
Yeah. I mean, you know, first and foremost, always focus on whole foods if you can. But if you remember last month's episode, we broke down a pre-workout and ate the foods with it. Protein itself, it's high volume foods to be able to consume. But if you're able to eat your body's recommended amount of protein, or required amount, excuse me, in whole foods protein, in chicken, red meat, anything really, depending upon your diet, if you're plant-based, which is a little bit harder, I would just say eat as much meat as you can to meet your needs, depending upon your dietary goals.
Sure. I mean, the only reason we recommend protein powders is because of the efficiency, right?
Yes.
So, we know that protein costs money. We know that meats are a little bit more expensive than most other foods. And so getting your daily protein intake through whole foods can be a little bit harder, can be a little bit pricier, and it can be a little bit more filling. Sometimes it's difficult to consume that much food. And so the reason we recommend protein shakes is just because it's easier to get the protein that you need, not because you need to have a protein powder to make gains, just trying to make it easier on you.
And then there's another good one. I mean, I feel like a lot of people can relate to this question from YouTube. If I can't get to the gym during the holidays, do you have any tips on how to maintain my gains? So again, this comes down to so for instance, my in-laws, when we go for Christmas, they live out in the mountains in Idaho here. There's maybe a gym 20 minutes away, but in all reality, if you're in a kind of a cabin situation, you don't want to leave, you don't want to do anything like that. What I always bring is a resistance band and my ability to do push-ups.
Sure.
So when it comes down to it, body weight is a great substitute for that if it's for a short period of time.
Yeah, I mean, I know we have a couple programs on All Access that are completely focused on doing workouts without any weights. I just finished up doing one with Mark Harmon, MetaBurn 90. There are a little bit of weights involved, but most of it is just getting on the floor and doing push-ups and doing sit-ups and doing many other exercises as part of this program. We have that one. We have the new Fire. We have Total Body Fit. Is that what it's called?
Yes.
I believe Total Body Fit as well. So there's lots of different ways to stay fit and get sweating without any weights and doing it in your home. And you don't even really need that much space. So.
And again, to focus on your gains in the situation, make sure just to consume food, right? If you're not doing as much, you can't get to the gym, your requirement of food for the day is less. So in theory, you should be able to maintain your weight through that. I mean, if you're reading a book, you can snack on some food. I know that whenever we go, we either have almonds or meats and cheeses available. So, I mean, that's another vice, but consume food. Don't be afraid to get on the floor and do push-ups.
Sure. Should I focus on pie and ice cream? I think "and" is the important word there. Putting ice cream on your pie and making sure.
I don't believe in that.
Really? Oh man. We did have this question, Chad. If you're paying attention, it's important that you get involved in this conversation. Alec and I disagree. Is cheesecake a cake? I want to hear your sound off in chat. Please let me know. I don't think it's cake. Alec believes it's cake.
That's actually false.
No, you said it was cake.
No, I
said
said
it's called
more,
cake.
It's more cake than pie, but it's neither.
You said it's more cake than pie. I think that's false. I think it's more pie than anything. But anyway, let us know what you think. It's very important. What are your thoughts on alcohol when trying to cut? Alcohol actually has a ton of calories in it. So interestingly, the ethanol molecule has a very high energy content. And so even a shot of booze can have as much as 80 to 90 calories in it. And it doesn't take that much to get a ton of calories. And then that's not even talking about things like beer. And beer has that much alcohol in it on top of 4 or 5 slices of bread worth of carbs. So it's pretty tough.
I have some interesting thoughts
to cut
on
weight.
this.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, so on cutting weight in general, I mean, as long as you're tracking it. So if you're tracking your food, so something to consider: for every gram of alcohol, it is 7 calories. So you have fat is 9, carbs and protein are treated as 4. Alcohol is a different ballgame, so it's 7. So the quick way to do it, if you just in terms of making things easy, I just track it as carbohydrates. So if you have a White Claw, and it's 100 calories, so just assume you're consuming 25 carbohydrates on top of that, just for easy tracking purposes. I mean, yeah, for some people it catches up. So I would definitely say if you're bulking, it's much easier to enjoy an alcoholic beverage. But cutting, I mean, if you treat alcohol and other food in terms of the greater piece of your calories that you're consuming a day, in theory you can.
That's good advice.
In theory,
you just have to weasel it in there.
I mean, it depends on how serious. If you're trying to cut for a competition or something like that, I wouldn't advise it. But if just general life and you want to lose a couple pounds, you can probably get away with it.
All right, so let's see. We got a couple more questions. How do you deal with all the carbs during Thanksgiving? We actually talked about this a little bit earlier. If you missed it, try filling up on things that aren't going to be giving you a bunch of carbs, right? Drinking a ton of water, eating your veggies, focusing on protein-high foods, right? So the white meats from turkey, and hopefully you can fill up on those things so that you don't feel the need to consume a ton of the carbs, right? So.
And then my snarky answer is put them in your mouth. But
Alec loves the carbs.
so, I mean, it depends on your goals going into, right? So, like, ideally, like, gaintaining, kind of to touch back on what we were kind of going over at the beginning of the episode. Gaintaining is a fun little phrase in terms of being able to, you're not bulking per se, but you're hovering around maintenance calories and you're trying to slowly make gains. Or you can just, if you're trying to go swole or bear and just want to consume food, seafood, eat food, it's a different ballgame too. But a lot of this is if you are a beginner on your fitness journey and to be able to adapt to, I would say, a rather hectic calorie time. Some people generally and genuinely are nervous about this time of the year in terms of how it's affecting their goals. So there are definite approaches. I think the biggest one really is don't be so hard on yourself if you happen to enjoy things. I mean, it's one day, 24 hours aren't going to impact your long-term fitness goals to that degree.
There you go.
So.
All right, what do you think about pre-workouts and adrenal fatigue? So adrenal fatigue is a word I've heard used quite a bit. I don't see a ton of literature on it, but I do see it kind of thrown around. I don't think it's used in the correct context, but I think the story behind it does have some merit. So the concept here is I'm taking a pre-workout really often, but then over the course of time, the pre-workout feels like it's doing less and less. But I don't think it's because of adrenal fatigue. I think it has to do, it's very specifically with something called caffeine sensitization, right? So your body, when you consume caffeine stimulates, it blocks the adenosine receptor. Adenosine receptors are the ones that make you feel tired. And so if caffeine's blocking those, you feel less tired. It's pretty cool. Now, obviously, there's a ton of other things that happen when you consume caffeine that have to do with vasorestriction and increasing your heart rate, but that's the one that really makes you feel awake. What happens, though, is that when your body realizes that you're blocking these adenosine receptors with caffeine, it responds, and it responds by making more of them, so that it requires more caffeine in order to get that blocking sensation that's required for you to feel more awake. And so over the course of time, you will need to take more and more caffeine in order to feel the same amount of alertness from your pre-workout than before. I don't think your adrenal glands are getting fatigued at all. If there's information about that, if there's studies that show that there's adrenal responses, whether it's increases or decreases of epinephrine and norepinephrine, I would love to see them. Send to brain.gainz@bodybuilding.com. Please, that would be stellar if I could get more educated on this. But for the most part, this is a caffeine issue. And so if you're asking, is it okay to take a break from pre-workouts if I feel like I'm not getting as much bang for my buck? Absolutely, because over time your body will kind of adapt back. That's called homeostasis, right? It's trying to come more towards center. And then you can kind of hop back into pre-workout slowly from there. So if you feel like you need to take a break because it's not working, do it for 100%, and it'll help for sure. So check it out. We got one more point that I wanted to make sure everyone knew going into their holidays. And that's that unless you are competing on Thanksgiving Day, on Christmas, unless you are like right in the thick of your competition prep, I encourage you guys to be okay with consuming the food that you want to eat. Be okay with spending time with your family and enjoying some of the things that the holidays bring. We only get these holidays a couple times a year. And if you're going to have 4,000, 5,000 calories on one day, it's probably not going to ruin your gains for the rest of the year.
No.
I mean, it's obviously going to lead to a difficult workout on Friday morning or the day after. But if it allows you to enjoy your time with your family, I say absolutely go for it, because that family time is super mega worth it. So
at the end of the day, life balance is key. So enjoy your life, enjoy spending time with people. That's what the point of the holidays are. Just at the end of the day, know that putting yourself into a 3-day sleep coma from all you consuming is probably not what you should be doing. But don't be afraid to have that extra slice of pie.
All right. A couple more questions and then we'll wrap up for the day. Hi, thanks for the show. You're welcome. Thanks for being here. By the way, if the holidays are matching with the Strength Mass program, isn't it good just to fill our mouth with everything?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so like we talked about before, if you're in the process of bulking, of gaining muscle, of trying to increase your size, then yeah, you need a lot of extra calories. It's just important that you track them and make sure that they are the right calories, because remember, we want to hit those protein goals first and then fill in the gaps with the other 2 macros. But then yes, that's what you need. If this is a good time to fit those, yes. From Twitch, any tips for choosing the best protein shake? So there's a reason we promote whey protein shakes, not because it's just cheap, but because whey protein is a complete protein. It has all 20 of the amino acids. It's high in leucine, which we know is great for activating the mTOR system, which is what allows your body to build muscle. And so unless you are lactose intolerant, And if you are, I would avoid whey protein shakes. But unless you are, they are a really great source of all the amino acids that you need for a pretty low cost. The issue is finding the one that tastes good to you. There are a bajillion whey protein shakes out there, and all of them, I mean, even the different chocolate shakes, they all taste different. So try them out, see what you think. I may be biased when I say that the BBCom one that we helped formulate and help taste test tastes pretty good, but make sure you try multiple different types, and hopefully you'll find one that's right for you. If you are lactose intolerant, there are tons of other protein sources for you. Plant proteins are becoming better like every year, and just make sure that you're finding plant protein that has multiple sources, because unfortunately there's no such thing as a complete plant protein. And so you want to be looking for ones that use brown rice, but also use other things like watermelon seed and pumpkin seed and hemp and all the different types that they have, because the more different kinds that they have, the higher breadth of amino acids you will get. So do it. Go big. Go for it.
I think we're going to take one more question before we dive into some new product and flavors.
Oh.
Kind of the biggest one that I'm seeing here, and just to reiterate, are multivitamins a necessity? So multivitamins are there because there are holes in our diets, right? To be able to fill everything with your, that isn't like the signature multivitamin, just for example, it would take a lot of time to be able to fill your plate with everything that contains all those efficacious nutrients. Are they necessary? It depends on what your definition of necessary is. Are they effective in terms of general health? Absolutely. So they are there to help you throughout your day because it's a convenience play as well. And again, it's just very stressful.
That's right.
It's stressful to try to.
This is a supplement to your diet.
Yes.
We just want to make it easier to fill in those gaps, but we are trying to help you hit those recommended daily intakes from the FDA. So there you go. All right, moving on, guys. If you put a question in the chat, first of all, thank you so much for being a part of the show today. We really appreciate it, but we didn't get to everyone's. And so if you feel like you still want your question answered, we still want to answer those for you. We're just running out of time. So please feel free to send those to brain.gainz@bodybuilding.com. Alec and I both have that email, and we can get back to you on answers for that. So please use that email address. We would love to talk to you. All right, so a couple things that we wanted to plug before we let you go today. We have a ton of sales coming up, guys, and we have a ton of new products that are coming onto the site that we want you to know about. Number one is Pharma Freak is coming out with the Ripped Freak 2.0 and the Test Freak 2.0. Cellucor is coming out with C4 Ultimate Shred, C4 Ultimate Power, and the Alpha Amino Ultimate. Go Pure Labs is coming out with the Turmeric with Ginger, the Keto BHB Performance Complex, the Organic Ashwagandha. And then finally, Olympus Lifestyle is now up and running on the website. I highly recommend you check those out with the No Mercy, the Jump, and the EAA Drip and BCAAs. Make sure you go check those out. They're actually really cool labels. I don't know if you've seen those, but. And then coming soon, Alpha Lion. I don't know if you've heard of Alpha Lion, but they announced a couple days ago they will now be an exclusive on Bodybuilding.com. So if you want Alpha Lion and all their awesome products, they are coming soon, and they will be an online exclusive to Bodybuilding.com. So we'd love to see you there. And then a couple new flavors. Redcon's Total War is coming out with Blue Lemonade, Strawberry Mango, and the Fireball Olympia Edition. Muscle Tech Vapor 1 is coming out with an Arctic Blaze. Genius Brands Genius Vegan Protein is coming out with a chocolate. And then finally, Controlled Labs Purple Wrath is coming out with a Freedom Pop. There you go. And then sales.
So big things rolling out. So instead of Black Friday just starting next week, Sunday they start rolling out.
This Sunday.
So 11/24 we start with our Cyberweek sales. And 11 through the 28th, through the 29th is Black Friday.
Yep.
And then, what do you know? Black Friday hangover sale will also be on the 30th.
There you go.
And then Cyber Monday, the 1st of December through the 3rd. So be prepared. Deals are coming.
Yeah, pretty much the entirety of the next week and a half-ish.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's all we got for you guys today. Thank you so much for being here. I encourage you to have a wonderful holiday with your family. But until then, keep on lifting.
This program was designed to develop your overall athleticism.
We created Mind Body Fit to help women achieve all over wellness. You'll find tons of articles on nutrition, exercise, and even beauty.
Shoulders define your upper body. Just add these 2 workouts into your split each week to build bigger and more defined delts.
With my Kingmaker program, you'll build muscle and a special kind of mental toughness that can overcome any challenge.
With MetaBurn 90, all you'll need is a few dumbbells and 30 minutes or less a day to burn fat and achieve peak fitness in a very short, concentrated amount of time.
Everything is laid out for you in detail.
We're positive you'll find unique pieces that will help you feel your best every single day.
Control your world, but it all starts with you. Only at Bodybuilding.com, all access.